Hello. I'm going to show you a little exercise that I like to do when I'm not feeling very inspired and I want to paint or I want to be in my studio, but there's nothing in my mind. So I love working in my sketchbook or art journal. For me, they are the same thing. And what I'm doing here is I picked out a couple of acrylic paints, and they're from the same family. They're all cool colors. So they remind me of water. This little exercise also helps me to calm down when I'm feeling that there's too much in my mind. So I pick a couple of cool colors and I start working with this acrylic paint as if it was a watercolor. I use a lot of water to water down my paint, and that makes the acrylic paint, flow with each other in the paper and with each of these circles that I'm painting here. So I want the edges to touch and I want the colors to mix with each other, but in a natural way. I'm not forcing it. I just get to touch the edges, and sometimes, depending on the color and the kind of paint, because different paints move in a different way, depending on the paint, the colors will mix. And I really love making this happen. And it calms me down. It brings me it also grounds me because I'm in the moment. I'm seeing how the paint mixes, taking care of how much water I use in each of the colors, which is a lot, actually. This is an exercise that I don't think will work very well if you were working on a canvas, because as we water the acrylic so much, the pigment and the binder break and they don't stick to a canvas. But because this is paper, is much easier and it will stick better. So I haven't tried this specifically on canvas, but I do know that using this much water is not recommended when you're using canvas. So I'm filling all my page with these circles and ovals. And what I'm trying to do, as I told you, is to get the edges to touch and to get the paint to flow into each other. And if you're feeling like you have a lot on your mind, or you're feeling very tired, using calming colors like cool colors, blues and greens, and maybe even a blue violet will actually help you relax. And it really does help me relax because this really calms me. So I'm using an ultramarine blue, a Payne's gray, a turquoise, a primary blue, and a light blue permanent. But that's perfectly fine, the blues that you use, if you want to use blues. If in another case you're feeling more like you want to pick me up, you want to be more energetic, you could try to make the same exercise using more energetic colors. So pinks and reds and yellows. And I find that it helps. It actually animates me, and well, it gives me a little bit of energy. Now that I have a lot of circles and ovals, I want to create some lines, and I want to use some of the paint that is already in my page that hasn't dried out already, and I'm moving it creating lines, so connecting the circles with each other. And because all of the colors that I'm using are similar, they're all blue, so they're analogous and they're from the same color, actually, but in different hues, there's no worry for me that they're going to make a color that I don't like or that they're not going to mix well. This is a great way, a great color scheme to try, analogous color scheme, because you know that everything's going to work. You don't have to add a lot of lines. This really is up to you. You can add as little or as much as you want. And what I would suggest is that you try out connecting with different colors. If there's not enough wet paint on your page to create these lines, use a color that you have in your color palette. I let things dry out a little bit more, and now I picked up a pencil. This is a water-soluble pencil. And now I'm using the tiny little bit of paint that is already wet to create the same shape that I was creating with the paint. And something that I really enjoy doing is repeating shapes and repeating the same, not only the same type of shape, but using different tools to create that shape. So now I'm using a colored pencil and I'm creating these lines and repeating the same lines over everywhere. And you can see the difference between the water-soluble pencil and this color pencil. This line is much softer and very delicate. And it's a great idea to use and try to use supplies that you enjoy. And I love working with colored pencils. I love adding them to water down acrylic. Sometimes your color pencil won't work very well on top of acrylic paint, but because this is very watered down acrylic paint, you can actually paint on top. But if you can't do that, remember that you have more tools that you can use. You can use paint markers, you can use wax crayons, or wax pastels, or even pastels. And now I'm introducing a new color. This is something that is not in this color palette. This is a purple color. It is like a red violet. And I know that this color is going to work well with what I already have on my page because they are very next to each other. They're similar and next to each other in the color wheel. Feel free to use a contrasting color or keep using colors that are on the same proximity, that are cool colors. This is actually the first color I used was more warm color, still on the fence between cool and warm. And now I'm going to start adding details, or not details. I'm going to start adding lines inside my shapes that I already have on the page. And in this case, it wasn't showing up because the two colors were actually too similar. So I want a little bit of contrast. So I went and used this turquoise color on top of the Payne's gray. And now you can see it a little bit better. It's not like when I was working on top of the light blue. There, you can't see anything there. But if that happens, if you try a color and the color doesn't work, that's perfectly fine. Just pick another color and keep going. And you don't have to worry about making mistakes. There are really no mistakes here. We don't have anything planned other than filling the page and letting go of some of the energy that we have, or use this as a starting point, like a warm up session for you to get into your daily practice or to start some project. So there really is no actual image in that I have in my mind when I start. I want to do those things, either warm up or relax, and that's what I'm doing. I'm painting and I'm coloring and I'm making marks, and this is actually helping me. And here in this place, I'm almost like tracing. I was tracing the shape that was already there. And I was using a darker color so it would show up. And now I think this is actually like a Payne's gray. And I want to continue adding shapes. They don't need to always be the same. Feel free to go with whatever comes to your mind. And for me, it was to take a little bit of the paint that wasn't already dry and create this shape that I use a lot in my work. It's like a scallop shape. And I love creating those little arches. So again, nothing is planned. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have an idea of how this page should look. It is coming along as I created, and I'm actually being surprised what comes up in my mind. So another thing, this was again like tracing or replicating the image, the shape that is already there. And because this color wasn't showing enough, I decided to go over with a darker blue. And I tried to make my line a little bit thicker and not as uniform as it first was. So get a bunch of blue colors, color pencil, and paint markers or whatever your tool of choice is, and start adding marks. Now this is another color that is not in this color scheme, but is next to the blue, to the red violet, and it actually works pretty well on top of that blue. So this is the red violet that I used at first, and it creates a lovely contrast. It's a very beautiful color if you like these types of colors. So don't be shy about using a color that might not work. You can just try it out, and if it doesn't work, you will continue or you will stop. Everything depending on how you see and see if it works or it doesn't work for you. Not for everybody else. This is an exercise that, as I told you, it's done in my sketchbook. So nobody is going to see it unless I want to. and nobody's going to tell me, oh, that looks beautiful, because that is not the point. The point for me is to play with my art supplies. So when I was starting out, I always had like the feeling that I was wasting my time if I didn't know, or what I didn't have a specific purpose. But now, after working for a lot of years, I understand that the purpose is working. The purpose is serving me as a place to play and a place to express myself. And what am I expressing? I sometimes know, I sometimes don't know, but really that is not the question for me. The question for me is, am I enjoying and am I learning? Am I being, am I getting relaxed after working with this? Or am I feeling inspired to continue after I make a page like this? And I think that is its purpose, to help me understand if things are working for me. Now, this is another kind of line, something that I really enjoy doing, and I I think I made a lot of this in my class in Dreamscapes, where the arch or the line I'm creating is thicker and has a number of colors in it. So it looks like a little, like candy, like the sour gummies that I really love. And I love those colors. And I love the mixing of the blues. And it creates like a kind of umber effect. And I love that. I love seeing that. And I love making those. So I didn't plan that. I just saw that there was like a thick line and I wanted to continue that line. And when I started coloring it, I thought, if I made this gummy, warm gummy line, it would look pretty good. So try things out. There are no mistakes. You're not looking for having a major piece of art after you're done. You're doing this for yourself and for feeling good after you're done. And I'm almost done. And it really is up to you when you're done, because this is your page. So you decide how much or how little you add. You also decide your materials. This would be a great exercise to use watercolors. So try those. I actually love working with acrylics because I know they stay and I can add more layers. But this is it. I'm done. And I'm really happy how everything is looking. The colors, I love the colors that I picked. They really calm me down and help me to feel better. Actually, after I finished this page, I was really relaxed and I wanted to continue working on other things that I needed to finish. So, again, another way to use this exercise is to use it as a warm up. And here's the thing, I should have let things dry better because sometimes my color pencils weren't working really well. And that is because the page wasn't completely dry. So let your page dry or use a hair dryer or a heat gun, and that way you won't get the same problem that I'm getting in some of those shapes. In fact, this is still wet. I can still move that paint with my color pencil. So it's best to get your page completely dry before you start adding pencils, colored pencils, if you want, well, if you want the colored pencils to work. And this is it. This is the last lines, and I'm done. I really hope you enjoyed this little lesson. I would love to see what you create, or if this inspires you to create something, I would love to see it. So tag me on Instagram. And I really hope to see you in my class, Dreamscapes. And that's it. Remember to have fun. Bye.